2000. But Ethiopia still remains among Africa's poorest. It's heavily dependent on agriculture, its nascent manufacturing sector is ripe for investment, and the country requires more infrastructure. It only has 1.2 kilometers of paved roads per 100 square kilometers. So how can Ethiopia grow its economy in a way that benefits people without hurting the environment? The Programme for Country Partnership was a solution conceived by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, with Ethiopia as its first partner in 2014. The goal of the programme is to increase manufacturing's contribution to the economy in a sustainable way and to turn Ethiopia into a middle-income economy by 2025.
This kind of program really helps country to achieve the transformation of their economy from the agrarian to the industrial development.
So how does it work? The programme abandoned the old top-down approach to development. The partnership is managed and implemented by the government, with UNIDO taking an advisory role. UNIDO also facilitates the transfer of skills and expertise. It brings together international investors and institutions. This formula is working. The partnership resulted in a decision to build special industrial parks to help boost the food processing, textiles and leather industries. The creation of the Mojo Leather City is now in planning phase. A multi-million-dollar loan is nearly finalised, and we should see the park up and running by mid-2019. It will be the largest tannery in the country, supplied by renewable energy and innovative waste management systems to prevent further pollution. The partnership programme is now a model for other governments. UNIDO was invited to Senegal to support its national strategy, the Plan Senegal Emergent. The programme identifies sectors with economic potential and the creation of special economic zones, agricultural processing parks, and a regional mining hub. While the newest partner is Peru, it aims to be inside the Organisation of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, by 2021. It's already one of the fastest growing economies in Latin America. There, the programme works on quality and innovation, supporting the development of 20 technology centres and traditional exports such as fisheries and coffee. This development model is now being rolled out in other economies. It is a partnership led by governments, supported by international institutions and the private sector, to create a future where people and the environment work together.
I am happy that this company has come here and created jobs for us.
I am also expecting to be awarded for being a model farmer in my village.
Because of my coffee income, I could send my children to school, and I have graduated from high school myself. Now, my life is being changed.
Very nice of you. Good. Thank you very much indeed for your attention there. So to kick off the session that we're going to have, our panel discussion, I'd like to re-invite to the stage the Director General of UNIDO, who's going to be making some introductory comments before we discuss the partnershiping for impact. So may I please welcome you back to the stage to join me again, Director General Lee Yong. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, sir. So this time to the lectern. Yes, I know. Back to the lectern. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very, very happy to come back on this issue again. I'd just like to warmly welcome you all to the 6th Inclusive Sustainable Industrial Development Forum. This is a kind of forum we actually lasted for quite a few years. Within the past 3 years, every year we have one or two such kind of event. As you may know, this is an event UNIDO organizes regularly for member states and our partners to exchange ideas, experiences, to foster great cooperation, coordination among us. Today we will discuss Program for Country Partnership Approach, PCP, as part of the broader theme of the General Conference, Partnering for Impact, Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We are honored to have government representatives from our first pilot PCP here with us this afternoon. Also present with us today representatives of new PCP country and Cambodia and the Kyrgyzstan Republic. It is also extremely encouraging that we have our partners from the financial institutions here as well. I really would like to mention my very close friend, our important partner from the World Bank, Mahatma Halding, and his long-term career for the development course, start from the government business and the development institutions, now our important partner to promote industrial development, inclusive and sustainable way to our member states. So I just would like to say our partnership, our partners for the partnership program, World Bank, is an indispensable partner of us. And it's really a prestigious development institution, always promote economic development, social development for our member states, but here we work together. And the other development institutions like regional development banks and the private sector as well, and our UN peer agencies are our partners. As you know, addressing today's development challenge is so complex, as we all know that there are so many issues, not short term. It's a really long term, and also need efforts, need a determination, need a commitment for a challenging job. So I'm very happy to be here to introducing the PCP concept, why it comes from our past experience, why it comes from international experience, why it comes the demand of the member state, because member states request UNIDO to do more to support their industrial development. It's really a very, very good move. When I heard that, I really very, very happy about this, because they understand all the countries become advanced country, high-level income country, because they develop industry, because they have a strong industrial sector. That is why the African countries, 54 of them, committed to the economic transformation based on the industrial development, agro industries, and that is why so many countries already develop industrial sector, now try to upgrade their industrial sector and to create competitiveness and also more job opportunities for their people. So this is a starting point. We checked with our history, and we could see that in our past, we developed cluster programs, industrial strategy, and very frankly, not so successful. But why it was not a success? Because we tried to do it our own. This is one. Second is we are lacking resources. If we have plenty of resources, we may do it. But really a fundamental issue is our mindset, that how to actually work together and to create a common result to the country, to really move country with a high growth rate and more jobs. So this is the background, and I also would like to introduce to all of you and how to actually move ahead with this kind of program. Talking is easy, but when we go into the details, every country has its own situation. Like Ethiopia, they identify the 3 pillars based on the agriculture sector. One is food processing, second is textile, third is leather. And when we look at the Senegal, a major part of the PCP is agriculture sector. And the Peru, we identified 5 pillars of the areas we worked on. And I heard many countries, actually, they would like to have a PCP. They really, now in total, 22 of them. But I heard many ministers, industries, and officials, they request PCP informally. And so this is a challenge for us, how to speed up, scale up the process while we consider very cautiously about the capacity, about the approach, whether it's a full-fledged, and consider the real situation happened in countries. So I heard the countries request regional PCPs, and one country built up a cluster of country for PCP. And one country maybe develop a kind of concept is a limited area of industrial sector. Maybe one cement industry, one one manufacturer, medical, medicine. And so that is all different. Today I heard one leader told me that maybe renewable energy could be one important area. And so we need to develop those diagnostic study suitable for the country based on the real situation. And there's no cookie-cutter method. I learned from the World Bank, but in reality, it's not easy. So we developed that, also moving ahead with a schedule. PCP will become a kind of regular operation in the future of UNIDO. But we need brochures. Brochures contain the guidelines. Brochures contain the TORs for different parts of UNIDO. Brochures contain the guidelines for the field office headquarters. Brochure with the special different responsibility or division labor between member states and UNIDO. And so this is a very complicated issue. It's not a kind of simple issue, 1 + 1 = 2. So we will take more time to develop it. But one issue we really can start with is that we can develop a kind of diagnostic studies for our member countries, request PCP, and to see their industrial sector situation, their national endowment, and how their strategy likes, and we can work together on that. So this is basics we are starting with next year, and also work together with our partners, UNDESA, and also OECD, and maybe World Bank, and leverage their resources. Senior Vice President Mohammed, please, you have a very big resources. We need more financial resources from you, and please support us later on. Of course, I think your support will be paid back by member states' appreciation to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to mention that member states really support us. They believe this is a very useful tool for UNIDO to create a bigger impact. Our external evaluators just complete a job, complete evaluation in 4 months. They give us a report, very comprehensive report, and conclude with a very positive opinion. They believe this is an innovative way, very good approach to support country for transformation, and they believe that it really related to creating job. And so, but some very useful comments, exactly just like we are doing, the rollout cautiously, and also develop those guidelines, let it be regular procedures, and to guide our future work for PCP. So having said that, I do not want to occupy too much of your time. I really would like to hope that our pilot countries' official ministers could give you more insight of the PCP, and also I hope that our participants will have more to exchange for this kind of new operation approach. But it's a temporary 5 years, 7 years operation, but will not last long. And we also need to create an exit policy. Maybe one day the country would like to leave this PCP, and they could leave. It doesn't mean that they have obligation to last it forever. But in conclusion, I really believe this is a useful tool for UNIDO to create a big impact to help us to achieve the SDG goal 9, SDG goal 2030 development agenda soon, faster. So thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Director General. And,
I understand.
He can't say no now.
Yeah, but if I shouted at him, he will say no money at all. If I smiling with him, of course, big money from their pocket coming here.
You've got lots of witnesses, so we're going to see what happens. Thank you so much indeed, Director General. Thank you. And in fact, our next keynote speaker is the Vice Minister of Commerce from China, Mr. Wang Shuwen, who is going to give us his response actually as to why the People's Republic of China feels that it should support the PCP, and he's also going to be talking about the importance of public finance, leveraging public finance for development and delivering this agenda. He's going to give us lots of ideas. Vice Minister, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. The lectern is yours.
It's very good to see you outside the TV screen. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the concept of inclusive and sustainable industrial development was first put forward by the UNIDO in Lima, the capital of Peru, 4 years ago. Over the past 4 years, we are very pleased to see the improvement of industrial development and the promotion of sustainable development in those countries which have carried out those pilots. These indeed represent the endeavors to implement the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Today, I would like to share some of our experiences and ideas with our fellow colleagues. First, industrialization is an important means to alleviate poverty. In comparison with agriculture, I have no intention to discriminate agriculture. Industry possesses higher productivity and can contribute to urbanization and sustainable poverty reduction. Since reform and opening up started in 1978 in China, we have transferred over 200 million rural surplus labor forces from agriculture to industries. Today, China's foreign trade sector, mainly trade in industrial goods, are contributing 180 million job opportunities. Foreign invested enterprises in China are providing jobs for 40 million people. China's poverty rate has decreased to lower than 4% of her total population. Without large-scale industrialization, none of these above figures could have happened. It is also necessary to adhere to the new path of industrialization. Green development is a prerequisite for sustainable industrial development. To achieve industrialization, instead of falling into the trap of environmental control lagging behind pollution, we in China have embraced the new approach of science and technology innovation, environmental friendliness, and energy efficiency. In recent years, we have strengthened in China the awareness that clean waters and green mountains are more valuable to those industrial plants. Clean waters and green mountains are themselves invaluable assets. The philosophy for green development emphasized by President Xi Jinping of China strongly advocates green production and consumption, and this methodology has yielded remarkable results. In this connection, we want to assure you that China is willing to conduct dialogue and cooperation with member countries on the new path of industrialization. It is also essential for industrialization success for member countries to participate in the process of global value chain. Economic globalization has entered into a new era of global value chain. To achieve rapid industrialization, developing countries anchoring on their own comparative advantages should position themselves more accurately and integrate into the international division of labor. Our experiences have proven this could be a shortcut towards a certain degree of success. China supports UNIDO to conduct PCP pilots in Ethiopia, Senegal, and Peru, with a view to helping them integrate into the global value chain, and we are willing to do so to a larger extent down the roads. In our view, efforts should also be made to utilize both domestic and foreign capital in this process. A substantial amount of capital, technology, and essential resources are required for developing member countries to promote inclusive and sustainable industrial development. Our practice is that we give full play to both domestic and foreign capital. We encourage the whole society participation through public-private capital collaboration and industrial policies. Further to that, we have expanded our market access opening to foreign participation, and we attract the participation of foreign enterprises in various sectors in China, including both manufacturing and service sectors. This has helped to shape a diversified and multi-layered capital supply model in China. Ladies and gentlemen, under the stewardship of Director General Li Yong, the PCP has produced multiple results. China will continue to encourage businesses in China to invest abroad and to support local poverty alleviation efforts, as well as sustainable development in the host economies. China is committed to joining hands with UNIDO and member states and taking concrete actions to promote inclusive growth and achieve sustainable prosperity. I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Vice Minister. Thank you very much for that presentation. So our next keynote speaker, if I invite him to the stage, please, is Mr. Mahmoud Muhyiddin, who's a Senior Vice President at the World Bank Group. And while you're making your way to the stage, you can work out your response to that, the gauntlet being thrown at you there by the Director General, Li Yong, about what support the World Bank can drum up. But you're also going to be focusing on, what kind of potential synergies there are at what you do in the World Bank and also what UNIDO is doing. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Muhyiddin.
Ms. Badawi, for this introduction and reminding us of the important question and the request put forward by the DG, Mr. Leong, whom I like to congratulate for the renewed confidence and trust of his leadership of the UNIDO. And I'll try to answer this difficult question: how can we bring the funding? I wish that my institution, the World Bank Group, to have the trillions of dollars required for funding. But it is very good to come after His Excellency the Vice Minister of Commerce of China, because he made a good reference to the Addis agenda and the billions to trillions. So this is basically the way we are trying to provide funding, how to use our finance, which is of billions, to leverage the private sector going forward. So maximizing finance for development means many things, each an important component of the whole. It means we must mobilize domestic resources. We have to mobilize international financial resources. We need to harness the role of the private sector in financing development and indeed to maximize the use of innovative financing sources and mechanisms. In alignment with the Addis Ababa Agenda for Action, the World Bank Group has embarked on an effort to help countries maximize financing for development. First of them is improving domestic resource mobilization and reducing illicit financial flows. There is no way that we can fund development while there is that huge leakage of resources through illicit financial flows. These are central to enabling countries, communities, and individuals to benefit from economic activities. And it has been proven that if your country has resources below 15% of GDP of tax revenues, the country will have difficulty funding basic state functions and services. In the face of the growing momentum, in April 2016, the IMF, the OECD, the UN, and the World Bank Group launched the Platform for Collaboration on Tax, which aims to intensify cooperation on tax issues with a view to strengthen their capacity-building support for developing countries. Additionally, as far as illicit financial flows are concerned, it is estimated to be several times the official development assistance. So if the official development assistance, or ODA, is in the neighborhood of $145 billion a year on average during the last 3 years, the illicit financial flows are multiples of that. So the World Bank Group is trying to respond to this challenge by 3 ways of helping countries. First, by trying to measure the illicit financial flows. Second, by assisting client countries in preventing the underlying behaviors that gives rise to illicit funds. and finally to support countries and international efforts to stop the flow of illicit funds and recover stolen assets. But let me emphasize again that prevention when it comes to illicit financial flows is much more important and effective than recovery. Ultimately, if countries can create jobs, formalize the economy and drive economic growth, they will maximize domestic resource mobilization and minimize the possibilities of illicit financial flows at the same time. It's all about governance, transparency, and building efficient systems. In our discussions on financing for development, we often overlook the dimension of human capital. It's not just about fiscal capital. It's not just about the infrastructure side. It's very much as well about preparing the workforce with the relevant capacities and skill set for the fourth industrial revolution. This will be very much fundamental for any kind of inclusive economic growth going forward. This is why the World Bank Group is spearheading global efforts to encourage investments in people, in human capital, as a critical step to boosting inclusive economic growth. This is very much what occupies most of the time now of the senior management of the World Bank Group. Another important component will be partnerships involving all development players, including the private sector. These partnerships will be key to scaling up the financing needs for industrial infrastructure and projects. And UNIDO's program for country partnership represents a very good and concrete model to operationalize and advance SDG 9. By convening different partners, and we're very happy that we are supporting the 3 pilot countries of Ethiopia, Senegal, and Peru to achieve their goals. And we're very happy as well with this tailored approach and very much country-specific program that had been designed for the 3 countries, and we are happy to engage in the second wave. To better sequence our interventions, we have developed something called the cascade approach. This is basically the new program of engaging with countries to fund inclusive growth and sustainable development going forward. So, in simple words, if the government comes to the bank asking for help for an infrastructure project like building an airport terminal, we'll say, well, we'll not do it. We'll not support you in doing it directly by funding you to do it. But we can help you establishing a consortium of public-private partnership modality in order to get this airport done, because this kind of a project can be conducted by the private sector. And meanwhile, we'll encourage you to use the concessional finance to fund the social sector, to fund the hard-to-reach and hard-to-get the private sector to get involved in projects like infrastructure facilities in remote and underprivileged areas, like in the social sector, like the education of girls. It's your money after all, but we like really to use your money, especially the concessional finance side of your money, more sensibly than what used to be in the past. And we have many good programs in order to apply the cascade approach, which gets you the infrastructure project that you are after, not just in the areas that I just mentioned, but beyond that. In addition to that, and let me wrap up, we are today talking about a new era for funding based on financial innovation. I'd like just to highlight very quickly 3 aspects of them. The first one is about green finance. All of these projects that we have been discussing, especially in the infrastructure sector, could benefit indeed from green finance schemes. The World Bank so far had issued more than $12 billion worth of bonds for the benefit of funding different projects, and in 130 different green bonds in more than 20 currencies today. The second one is basically about the SDGs-linked bonds, which is a new innovative way of funding Basically, we are linking the finance to the Sustainable Development Goals, and we have done the first bond with BNP Paribas worth of 163 million euros. This is just a start, and we have seen the institutional investors from France and Italy and others very much interested in that. And finally, on the area of finance, you cannot do business today without thinking seriously on how to benefit and minimize the challenges of fintech. Reducing the cost of transaction, opening new opportunities for funding, but they are not risk-free. So we are working with countries in order to maximize the benefits of fintech, meanwhile establishing the good pillars of consumer protection, financial literacy, effective and well-coordinated regulations, and making sure that market development and innovation is going to be supporting the Sustainable Development Goals. Finally, and I'm happy that all of these projects that we are engaged in with UNIDO have this kind of local emphasis. We are not forgetting the local level. We are not forgetting the importance of municipal finance. This is where all of the essential services are being provided, and we are happy that we are engaging at the subnational level in order to improve the quality of funding for municipalities and the local communities. Having said that, we are very happy and proud of our renewed partnership with UNIDO, and through the support of governments, private sector and the civil society, we can do more going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that overview of what the World Bank is doing. May I please now invite my panel, please, to come and join me on this lonely stage, please. Thank you. And so we're now going to be able to actually listen to three representatives of the countries where the pilot schemes were initiated by UNIDO in the PCP 3 years ago: Peru, Ethiopia and Senegal. Your names are already there, please, ladies and gentlemen. So, Mr. Ahmed Abtu, thank you very much indeed. You're sitting there. So, Mr. Abtu, you are Minister of Industry in Ethiopia, and as we've heard made reference to today, that Ethiopia is one of the countries where we have seen the PCP being tried out. You've got a very good record at the moment. Ethiopia is not only one of the fastest growing economies in Africa, but indeed in the world. I think it's about 8%, isn't it? Something like that. Sorry, 8.9%.
10.9%.
Oh, 10.9%, my goodness. So there we are. So I think the World Bank actually designates it as the world's fastest growing economy. And you've got your ambitions to become a middle income country by 2025, and also to become a light manufacturing hub. So, having said all that, to what extent has the PCP helped you in trying to achieve these goals so far? Have you got an indication that you could share with us?
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you to share my experience, Ethiopian experience, in very brief about PCP. Well, we have an ambitious target in our growth and transformation plan to continue a double-digit growth and to reduce significantly the level of poverty from 23% to 16%, and to bring economic transformation. All this needs structural transformation, social transformation, political transformation, which need new capacity and new mindset up. And that's why we need PCP to coordinate new experience from the rest of the world, to coordinate our limited resources, both human resources and financial resources locally, and to mobilize peoples at large in the same direction to bring transformation. That was the intention when we designed program for country partnership. And we have a 3-year experience for the last 3 years, and we bring at least a minimum coordination among public enterprise, especially key ministries, in developing production capacity. And we also achieve a minimum coordination among the donor communities, both bilateral and multilateral. We have a platform, a PCP platform, and we identify projects aligned with government programs. So efforts are now coordinated and significantly hit the target or apply for our GTP, our Growth and Transformation Plan. That's one of the achievements we have in the PCP experience. The second achievement, what we observe is PCP stimulates our private sector, both local and foreign private sector. There is a great movement in local private sector to transform from agricultural and service economic activities to industrial, engaging in industrial economic activities because of the PCP program. So it stimulates the local private sector to engage in transformational economic activities. And also, PCP explains the reality in Ethiopia, what's going on in Ethiopia. Both donor communities, multilateral and bilateral, big international financial institutions like the World Bank. Now, foreign direct investors get the right information in Ethiopia, and we had an ample opportunity to make money, to create additional wealth in Ethiopia. And that's why this year, 2017, we are #2 in attracting foreign direct investors, especially in textile and apparel, next to Vietnam. And we are the first in Africa to attract foreign direct investors. So PCP create a mechanism to explain what's going on in Ethiopia for the rest of the world, especially for foreign direct investors to come and to invest.
So it sounds like it's a ringing endorsement from the Ethiopian government's point of view for the success of the PCP. Thank you very much indeed, Minister. Marco Velarde, bravo. You must have heard all the jokes about your name. Bravo, Mr. Bravo. Yes, so you're Vice Minister of SMEs and Industry in Peru, another country which, of course, was one of the pilot ones. And you are a middle-income country, but your ambition is to achieve membership of the OECD. So, again, just give us a quick thumbnail sketch of to what extent the PCP has helped you try to achieve your goals.
Thank you, Ms. Badawi. Let me first say that Peru also shares the aspirations called by the DG and the President of the General Assembly of improving the life of its citizens and reducing poverty. And in that regard, we see a key for economic sustainable development to having a strong industrial strategy, which will be perfectly aligned to the 2030 development agenda. As you know, Peru has been one of the fastest growing economies in Latin America, and over the last 2 decades, my country has implemented a set of policies that has allowed us to lay the foundations for comprehensive and sustained development. And from that, we can see that poverty levels have fallen, and we have done important trade deals with key economic partners. However, there's still some room to improve, and in order to operationalize the aspirations that we have, we are strategically using our partnership with UNIDO and the PCP to for the objective of becoming an OECD member state by 2021. This ambition has prompted us to the implementation of many reforms throughout these years and looking for a long-term relationship with UNIDO. Since our relationship started in 2015, we are currently in the starting the implementation phase with the PCP, and this will will help us construct a national industrial policy that will work towards this objective, and with the help of other organizations to reach this goal of building an industrial strategy, not only which looks for outputs, but for outcomes, and leveraging the UNIDO's competitive advantages, such as the convening power, the technical advice, and leveraging financial support. So in that context, PCP offers us a great opportunity to accelerate this process.
Great. Thank you very much indeed for that perspective from Peru. Now we go back to Africa, to West Africa this time. We had East. Now we're going to the West, Senegal. Mr. Yatma Modi Ndiaye, you're Director of Cabinet at the Ministry of Industry and Small and Medium Industries in the Republic of Senegal. So we heard earlier on the Director General talking about there's no cookie cutter method. And also just hearing now what Peru has said about the, it's got to fit in with your own national industrial strategy. So just perhaps again give us an overview of what your national goals are in Senegal and how you see PCP has been really meshed into that. Because again, you've got a pretty good growth rate, haven't you, in Senegal? You're quite a hub. I think yours is about 6.5% growth rate, so quite good. Speaking in French, thank you.
Merci, Madame. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Thank you very much. Senegal's aim, Senegal's objective is to stabilize a growth rate between 7 to 8% by 2025, with a two-figure growth rate by 2035. All of this is set out in the context of our Senegalese national plan, which is the main point of reference for our macroeconomic national policy. The PCP's contribution to achieving this stabilized growth rate can be appreciated in both strategic and operational terms. What is most important here is perhaps the operational level, which demonstrates the magnitude, the impact of the PCP itself, which in terms of technical assistance, provides preparatory assistance in terms of mobilizing UNIDO's technological expertise in order to awaken also the keen interest of technical and financial partners for further development, as well as the interest of the private sector for public-private partnerships. Furthermore, this also is useful for knowledge and technology transfer, which will allow our administration to step up its capacity and also enables facilitation in terms of implementation of the program projects. A further important aspect underpinning this planned growth rate of 7 to 8% is this: the multi-sectoral partnership approach, bringing on board the public and private sectors from the very inception of designs to the implementation of projects. And then ultimately, we have joint resource mobilization, working with our technical and financial partners under the aegis of the Senegalese leadership, of course, while at the same time building on UNIDO's technical assistance in all of the major public and private investment projects. All of this builds on a very well-designed, relevant steering committee led by the President of Senegal at the highest possible level, ensuring oversight throughout the implementation of the project and of its progress throughout. The PCP serves to formalize the implementation strategy for the key industrial project components of Senegal: agricultural hubs, as the Director General underscored in his statement earlier, the industrial parks, mining, as well as digital hubs too. And of course, industrial parks, which is the key project. We have already managed since last year, since 2016, to establish the industrial park at Jamnyo, which is operating in the textile, logistics and packaging sectors, and already has employed 5,000 individuals. So in general terms, that's an outline of our results. But what is equally important in all of this is to achieve cruising speed through the implementation of PCP, as I've just pointed out.
Indeed, Mr. Ndai. You talked about public-private partnerships, and clearly this issue of partnerships is very much at the heart of the whole PCP idea, because, of course, it is a multi-stakeholder partnership that we are discussing, and they need partners, particularly in the developed world. So Mr. Gianluca Grandi, Minister Plenipotentiary from the Directorate General for Development Cooperation at the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, as both a bilateral partner and donor within the PCP model, just tell us about the importance of the multi-stakeholder partnership that we're discussing.
Thank you very much. The multi-stakeholder partnership actually is a principle which has inspired our reform of our cooperation system. So Italy has applied the multi-stakeholder partnership within the own country system of development cooperation. And in this respect, in order to make more efficient and coherent the policy of development cooperation with our partners. And in this respect, some new institution has been created, like the Interministerial Committee for Development Cooperation, which is chaired by our Prime Minister, in order to ensure coherence of development policy. And moreover, it has been created a National Committee for Development Cooperation, where all the stakeholders are called to give their input in policies and actions for development cooperation. All the stakeholders, which means there is a dialogue and interaction between our government, ministries, academia, parliamentarians, business sector, and all the different actors of development cooperation. This is in order to have a policy of cooperation development which is more and more inclusive. So this is the principle which has been then put into place, if I can elaborate a little bit, on a policy, for example, for energy sector, which we deem an important factor of development, as according to Agenda 2020 for the reaching of the objective SDG 7. And having identified that sector as an important sector, we have there has been a working group where business sector, ministries, academia, and civil society has participated in elaborating a document, which are these national guidelines for energy project in cooperation development, which will be approved by this committee, interministerial committee, chaired by the Prime Minister, to tell you the importance of this multi-stakeholder partnership. These guidelines are supposed to set up some criteria for which have to be attended in cooperation development project, after an assessment about what are the best practices on international level in the energy sector. Say this also on a more practical level, as a PCP, in the PCP framework, we can refer to a project that Italy has financed in Ethiopia in the coffee sector, where we gave 2.5 million euros in grants for the support of the coffee sector in order to enhance the productivity, quality of the coffee. And this has been done together with the Ethiopian authorities, cooperating obviously with the assistance of UNIDO, and also because the big challenge is also the engagement of the private sector, because we talk about private sector development. In reality, we have to talk about private sector engagement in cooperation development. And in this respect, there has been some training aspects which have been financed, which has been provided by Illy Café, which is a leading company of coffee producers in Italy, where they gave some scholarship and advice to the Coffee Authority of Ethiopia in order to better the production, in order to better certification at the international level of the Ethiopian
brings
coffee.
added value.
Added value,
of
exactly.
Course, because that's something that I think everybody agrees that Africa needs to do so much more
exactly.
on. Yes.
And it benefited 21,000
Yeah.
small producers, and then with the families, and
Yes.
then
You know, we had the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, visiting London last week because he was celebrating Ghana at 60. And I was at a talk that he was giving, and he gave a very startling figure about the lack of value added in Africa. He said that Ivory Coast and Ghana, between them, produce 65% of the world's cocoa production. And the whole chocolate business is worth $100 billion. And Ghana and Ivory Coast, between them, get $6 billion of that, even though they produce 65% of the world's cocoa. So he said, you know, clearly, even if they just made it into paste, cocoa paste, it would help. So thank you very much for giving us, you know, the examples there. And you mentioned, Gianluca Grandi, the importance of the private sector. And in fact, that brings me to our guest sitting next to him, Mr. Zhang Warong, chairman of the Huajian Group from China, because we also heard Minister Abdu talking about how Ethiopia now is a popular destination for FDI. And you, however, went in quite a while ago into Ethiopia for light manufacturing of shoes. So perhaps you would tell us why Huajian was motivated into investing in Ethiopia.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Today's forum, today's session is highly meaningful. UNIDO is about sustainable, inclusive industrial development, and PCP is a flagship project. Currently, the UNIDO is working with some pilot countries. For Huajian Group, we are investing in one of the PCP countries, that is Ethiopia. And today we have speakers from Ethiopia and Peru, among other countries. When it comes to industrial development, we will have to be clear that there are four actors. First, the recipient country who needs industrial development. Second, they need investment in their enterprises. As an investor, we need to know what type of enterprises that needs investment. For investors, in order to succeed in the recipient countries, we have to figure out what kind of support we need. Of course, in the last 3 years, UNIDO has made a lot of meaningful efforts for these recipient countries, for the pilot countries. For example, DG Li Yong paid a visit in our factory in Ethiopia. Actually, he visited us 3 times. During his visit, he provided valuable advice to the Ethiopian government as well as to us as an investor. Therefore, the UNIDO played an important advisory role to the countries. For us, we have provided jobs to 7,000 people, and we contributed to a large share of the country's export. While we are talking about the inclusive, sustainable industrial development, we have to create job opportunities, and then we have to create revenues in terms of foreign reserve. And what do we need as investors? First, we count on our partner countries for more open policies, and we also rely on more understanding locally for the development of manufacturing. And we will also shoulder more responsibility to create more job opportunities to the recipient country. At the same time, we need financing from international finance institutions to serve the local development. We hope that UNIDO will convene the resources internationally in terms of human resources, financial resources, educational resources, and even software as SAP. In this way, we can contribute to the meaningful development of developing countries. Of course, we are not philanthropists. We are going after revenues. In Ethiopia, in our discussion with the government, I made it very clear that we are after revenue. We're not philanthropists, because only with revenue can we make the projects more sustainable. Only in this way can we contribute to the growth. Therefore, my participation in this forum is very relevant to Huajian Group, to our cooperation with Ethiopia. This provides a good platform for exchange of ideas. We look forward to UNIDO's PCP for a greater role, especially in promoting more open policies in the recipient countries. Sometimes countries lag behind because they don't have an advanced mentality. Some countries are attracting a lot of foreign investment. Of course, that has to go hand in hand with follow-up work. For example, regulations, policies, all this should serve the development of the enterprises, and only in this way can we address the problem of poverty alleviation and job creation. All these issues are highly complementary and mutually enhancing. Some countries are facing a myriad of problems, and in this way, UNIDO with its partners can make their due share of contribution. Of course, we heard from the speaker from World Bank, and I believe the World Bank can play a role in better supporting those partner countries, especially developing efficient and effective enterprises entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Yes, well, Mr. Muhyiddin from the World Bank said many things, and he talked, of course, about the importance of domestic resource mobilization when it comes to financing aspects of development. But thank you very much indeed, Mr. Zhang, there for your very forceful intervention on the role of the private sector and the fact that you're not there performing philanthropy. In order for it to be sustainable, it has got to work. Isabella Groiga-Sahovic, your Senior Vice President at the Global General Manager, your Senior Vice President and Global General Manager of Public Services at SAP. So I know that you're the kind of new kid on the block.
Very much, yes.
Very much so, because SAP and UNIDO, you've recently announced your intentions to, partner up specifically in the areas of ICT, Industry 4.0 and artificial intelligence. So within the context of the projects that we're talking about in developing countries, this is absolutely critical, isn't it?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So first of all, we are extremely excited that we could announce that partnership and specifically engage around the new technologies and what is really coming next. I think we have heard a lot from His Excellency Minister here from Ethiopia, as all the other speakers, that industrialization is going to be key for those countries. Now, the industrialization is nowadays coming really with IT engagement. When we look specifically like a couple of years from now, it's going to be 3-4 years from now, we're going to see about 90% of the jobs in EMEA will need digital skills. So this is a massive transformation which can support those projects we are talking about here, also when it comes to leapfrogging and engaging and learning and taking these best practices from all over the globe. So I see that our sector, our industry can contribute very much, first of all, by providing as global leaders, and we are a global leader in business software, also with technology and also with artificial intelligence and new technologies, in providing best practices. If you think about how many projects we all see and how many best practices we can then bring to the table, also on the workforce, but also on the latest technologies, which gives access to those emerging economies to use technology in a very rapid way. I think this is also going to very much contribute to the entire engagement and specifically going forward to the PCP engagement.
Thank you very much indeed for that succinct intervention there, Isabella. I will come to you for your closing remarks, but I would just like to invite from the floor Unfortunately, I don't have the time to open it up to the entire floor, but I understand the representative from Germany would like to speak. So if you'd be so kind, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. You might be aware of the fact that we are now running in the final 4 days of Germany's G20 presidency, and I would like to make use of the opportunity to thank both UNIDO in general and the PCP responsibles in particular for the ample support you have provided us with throughout this presidency. And a special word of thanks goes to Ayumi Fujino, who represented UNIDO in the G20 Development Working Group and did a fantastic job. Let me explain you why I mention G20 in this context. There are strong linkages between the G20 agenda and UNIDO's work, and very specific linkages to the PCP. G20 are extremely committed to the 2030 agenda. And under the Chinese presidency already, we developed a SDG action plan, which then under the German presidency was supplemented with the Hamburg update, taking stock of how all the G20 work streams contribute to the achievement of the SDGs. And both documents highlight the importance of industrial development, the importance of SDG 9, UNIDO's core area of experience. And more specifically, this year we created the G20 partnership with Africa and the compacts with Africa designed to foster private investment in Africa, domestic investment as well as international investment. We are extremely happy that UNIDO supports this process and that the PCPs with Senegal and Ethiopia address industrial investments in these two compact countries. We think that this is a wonderful example for multilateral alignment, multilateral cooperation, and the Director General just mentioned that we need a common mindset, and this is a wonderful expression also of a common mindset. What we would like to learn a bit more about is, first, what are UNIDO's lessons learned from the evaluation? What is UNIDO planning to do to adjust the PCPs? Second, which plans do you have to select new PCP countries? Which methodology shall be applied? Third, how many PCP countries will we end up with? Because if every country becomes a PCP country, where's the specifics? And finally, let me remind all of us that we need to continuously improve the effectiveness of our work and focus more on results. For Germany, this is an integral part of our efforts to strengthen the whole United Nations systems, because eventually our legitimacy will ride on the actual difference that we can make together. And therefore it is important to us that UNIDO and its core undertakings like the PCP commit themselves to the UN reform process and participate in the efforts to better align the United Nations development cooperation agencies on the ground in the partner countries.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Representative from Germany. And am I right in saying that actually somebody from the Eurasian Development Bank was interested in making an intervention from the floor? Okay. Yes?
Thank you very much for giving the floor. Here I am.
Oh, right, okay, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eurasian Development Bank is an international financial organization focused on economic integration. The member states of the bank are the Republic of Armenia, the Republic of Belarus, the Republic of Kazakhstan, the Kyrgyz Republic, the Russian Federation, and the Republic of Tajikistan. The partnership between the bank and UN agencies is of great importance for us. That's why tomorrow will be signed the relationship agreement between the Eurasian Development Bank and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. The bank believes that the main principle of partnership between international institutions could be the mechanism of complementary. Taking this into account, we support elaboration of PCP and in particular in Kyrgyzstan as the member states of our bank. During this implementation of PCP, concrete priority industries for the development of the country will be identified. And this is very important for us, for the Development Bank, as we work First of all, with the private sector. Should the selected industries and projects be in line with bank's goals, strategy, and priorities, EDB could invest in these projects. We believe that such complementary schemes and partnerships is one of the most efficient collaboration between UN organizations and development financial institutions. UNIDO has unique technical competence in screening programs, projects that could decrease investment risks for international financial institutions. We should complement each other, and in such a way we will achieve our goals and get synergetic effects in implementation sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. So, panel, your closing remarks, please. We've looked back at, what's happened in the 3 pilot countries, and you all seem to say that it was a huge success. But just, looking forward, how do you think the whole concept can be developed? And we've heard various things about financing, the role of financing, the role of the private sector, whether we have clusters whereby, you use your comparative advantage. We heard the Director General talking about, some clusters where you've got the ability in medicine or manufacturing and so on and so forth. So just how do you see this really, evolving? So I'll come back to you, Minister Abtu, and if you could just keep your closing remarks to just a minute or so each, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, development needs structural transformation, which is a very complex job, and it needs mobilization of resources and technology, experience, know-how across the world, and this also needs a right vehicle or a right platform like country partnership program. We have experience for the last decade. We get support from the world, the rest of the world, through project type, traditional project type support or engagement. From our experience, we found that PCP is superior than the traditional project type engagements. PCP cover the whole value chain, while traditional project type engagement is very fragmented and less impactful for the general plan we have. So I would like to encourage donor communities, both multinational, bilateral and multilateral, to use these vehicles and to coordinate efforts with other efforts to be, at last hour, to be fruitful and to have a larger scale or a larger impactful benefits. That's one thing. And I would like to appreciate those who are participating in the PCP. From Ethiopian point of view, we have a very prime supporters like World Bank, like UK governments, Italian governments, UNDP, UNIDO. These are the major actors for bringing PCP liveful and support coordinated efforts. So I would like to encourage them to continue with that. And I would like to encourage other donor communities, international and bilateral organizations, to use PCP as a vehicle to support us, So your support will be fruitful and more impactful if you use this PCP approach, PCP engagements.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Not quite a minute, but please don't follow his example in that, because we're short of time. Mr. Millard, bravo from Peru.
I'll take a minute.
Thank you.
Take a minute. Well, thanks again for inviting me. I think that the challenge here will be how does a tool such as this an important tool such as the PCP will be able to engage different types of countries. In Peru's objective, the middle income, not falling into the middle income trap, and going towards being a member of the OECD, we have different challenges as other PCP countries. And this is a challenge that we'll see in the future. As I said, Peru is currently in the first stages of implementation, but we will gladly be here next year to tell you a little bit more of how we're doing, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Grandi? Signor Grandi, I should say. Signor Grandi.
Actually, I think that the crucial part in effectiveness would be is to how to mobilitate better the engagement of the private sector. And in this respect, I think that there is some work to do in order to benefit more from financial resources which are made available, for example, by the European Union, like now it will be launched in Abidjan, the European Investment Plan for mobilizing investment, private investment in Africa. And so that I think, and we have a new financial institution which still has to operate because she, for the moment, just is not still very active in the finding a specific financial instrument, and has to work more in blending private sector funds with public funds. So this, I think, is the crucial way of proceeding.
Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Ndiaye from Senegal. So we've heard about mobilizing private investment is absolutely critical, but how do you see things developing both nationally and within a cluster?
Senegal has already committed itself to implement its industrial sector within the PCP. The rest will depend on political will, but we still have time to conduct a comprehensive analysis of what has already been achieved. In other words, the contribution of industry to GDP is 13%. In Senegal, there has been a lot of progress achieved since we started to implement the PCP program, and this is what's important. So we have had achievements. We think that the PCP framework is relevant, not only to build up our industry and our industrial production, but especially with regards to our commitment to make sure that small and medium-sized industries should be drivers of our economic growth. Thank you.
Indeed. Mr. Zhang, your closing remarks briefly, please.
So if I exceed the time limit, please remind me. The success we have achieved in Ethiopia in the past few years was successful, and we have been improving. However, with regard to PCP, my company's business is a real case. I hope the PCP program will get more support. There will be more communications between the government and UNIDO and the business. We're going to build a community of common future, as President Xi Jinping has advocated. Therefore, we hope that the private business, such as Huawei and host countries, will work out a comprehensive program. We have to carry out activities in training, in carry out businesses. I think action is more important than words. Thank you.
Just finishing the translation there, the interpretation. Isabella, please, just button up this session for us then, perhaps.
Will do. So if I refine what my understanding also is from what I learned, as you said, as the new kid on the block from going forward, is that the development is very much fueled by a strong multilateral engagements with a strong culture about taking away the lessons learned. And that very much includes also the engagement in the new technologies that should be taken as the opportunity to leapfrog and also become a part and maybe taken as a specific part into the program. So understanding the progress, I think, to the private sector is also going to be key to see the understanding and see how the SDGs and specifically the countries in the PCP are progressing is also a key part. So that's the inside part. But also, and I think we're going to come to that, is the digital literacy that is going to become more and more important when we're going to go forward. So I couldn't agree more. We should work hand in hand, the government as well as the private sector, to solve these complex problems that are still ahead of us.
Thank you very much indeed, Isabel, and indeed thank you to all my panel there. And I think we've gained some real insights into country goals and how the PCP feeds into all of that, and just about the critical role of the partners, be they donor nations and the private sector. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you. And while my panel is going down, may I ask, so we're going to go into our next session straight away, and for that we're going to be looking a little bit forward now. We've seen the assessment, but now let's see what's going to happen. And while we refresh our panel, we have a keynote speaker. May I invite him to the stage, Mr. Uttama Savanayana, who's Minister of Industry for the government of the Kingdom of Thailand. And Thailand, of course, has had a very long-standing cooperation with UNIDO, so I think we're going to hear about how that's going to develop, and also Thailand's Eastern Economic Corridor model, and just how that feeds into industrial development and the regional cooperation that we've been discussing. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Minister. Hello, sir. Thank you so much. The lectern is all yours. It's waiting for you.
Good evening, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Thai government, it is truly an honor for me to speak at this very important forum. Now, Thailand has been in long-standing cooperation with UNIDO since 1968. Since the year 2000, Thailand has hosted UNIDO's first regional office, providing a base for UNIDO's outreach programs within the Asia-Pacific region. Looking forward, we are confident that there is a great potential and new opportunities for Thailand and UNIDO to create high-impact collaboration in the region. Today, I'd like to just briefly share with you what Thailand is doing with respect to industrial development. Distinguished guests, today Thailand is at a crucial juncture in our national development, and we have a clear vision of where we want to go and how we intend to get there. Central to our vision are three goals, namely stability, prosperity, and sustainability. These are collectively quite challenging to achieve in this era of ultra-rapid change and disruption. So, to assist us on this journey, we have developed Thailand 4.0, a holistic roadmap to guide the transformation of the Thai economy towards a value-based, innovation-driven economy that will enable us to achieve the three goals. Thailand 4.0 contains interrelated strategic thrusts. Now, allow me to highlight a few that are directly driving our 4.0 industrial transformation, and as such, offering dynamic opportunities for wide-ranging cooperation, local and international. First, the massive upgrading of Thailand's infrastructures. Currently under construction are extensive networks of urban mass transit, new high-speed and dual-track train lines, connecting destinations in Thailand and also those in our neighbor countries and beyond. A new expanded high-performance internet network to cover the whole of Thailand is also being put in place so that we can embrace the age of the digital economy and participate in the fast-changing global connectivity. Second, the development of new core technologies and innovative industries. Thailand has identified 10 priority industries to be developed. Together, they will be our new engines of sustainable growth and lead the industrial transformation. 5 existing priority industries, such as automotive, electronics, and agriculture, are being upgraded and their core competencies enhanced. 5 new industries of high value adds are also being developed. These include bioeconomy, automation and robotics, aviation and healthcare. Third, human capital development. Key skill sets necessary for today's sustainable industrial progress need to be developed innovatively. To this end, we especially aim to promote closer linkage between the industrial sector and the education sector to spur synergy for creativity and innovation. And of course, international collaboration is very crucial to human capital development. Fourth, area-based development. To ensure that growth is not only sustained, but also inclusive, Thailand 4.0 gives a top priority to area-based development initiatives to accelerate such growth. These initiatives take a holistic approach to social, economic, and human capital development. Leading our effort is the Eastern Economic Corridor, EEC, a new massive growth hub with combined area of 13,000 square kilometers. Strategically located on Thailand's eastern seaboard, the EEC has great potential to serve not only Thailand, but Southeast Asia and regions and other regions as well. The EEC and other area-based development initiatives will help the local activities to connect into the global value chain. Now, the real challenge in doing all these lies in the commitment and continuity of execution. In this regard, the Thai government extensively utilizes the public-private partnership mechanism. Today, with representatives of the private sector, the government, the civil society, or the public, working actively together, more than 10 PPP groups are key drivers of various transformation initiatives. The PPP groups are also active at both the local and international levels. In fact, as a result of Director General Lee Yong's visit to Thailand in September this year, Thailand and UNIDO have jointly developed the first strategic cooperation framework for the period of 2018 to 2021. The framework will focus on initiatives such as core technology and industries, SMEs capacity building, and big data industrial intelligence platform. But first and foremost, Thailand's partnership with UNIDO will not only be about acting in Thailand, but also about reaching out to our friends in Asia and beyond to foster inclusive participation and long-term shared benefits. Distinguished guests, sustainability is a common thread running throughout everything Thailand is undertaking under our Thailand 4.0 roadmap. Our fundamental goal is to put in platforms for effective execution to achieve long-term sustainable growth that is inclusive for all stakeholders, locally and internationally. As such, I reaffirm Thailand's full support for UNIDO in promoting inclusive and sustainable industrial development. And we look forward to working closely with all our friends in the international community. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister. Thank you very much indeed, Minister. Thank you. May I now invite to the stage our second keynote speaker in this session, Mr. Gennady Mikhailovich Gatilov, who is the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for Russia, the Russian Federation. Mr. Gatilov. He's going to be speaking in Russian, so... Oh, there you are. Great. You were sneaking up from behind. But you may wish to have your headphones unless you speak Russian. Hello, sir. Thank you so much. Здравствуйте. Пожалуйста. Yeah. Да, пожалуйста. Thank you.
Уважаемые
Distinguished moderator, ladies and gentlemen, the PCP of UNIDO is a basically very unique model of providing assistance to member states, of comprehensive assistance in the achievement of inclusive and sustainable industrial development. I will not talk about all of the general statements that we have heard already today. Let me just very specifically note our vision of the development of the Program of Country Partnership of UNIDO with regard to Kyrgyzia, for example. Russia and Kyrgyzia are long-standing strategic partners and members of the Eurasian Economic Union. The Kyrgyz Republic is one of the most important trade partners of Russia. And in 2016, for example, the trade volume between our countries was $1.10 billion. The membership in the Eurasian Union gives Kyrgyzstan very many benefits. For example, customs, health, and phytosanitary barrier elimination has helped us to form close integration links in trade, industry, and agriculture. Russia has assisted Kyrgyzstan very actively in adapting to the Eurasian Economic Union requirements. Kyrgyzstan has provided assistance, including in modernizing their customs offices and in providing for customs checkpoints. Russia also provides Kyrgyzia assistance in reforming their economy by reforming and developing the private sector and making production more competitive. For this, we have provided for a Russia-Kyrgyz Development Fund, into which Russia has already contributed $500 million. The fund is an investor of promising projects, which could have a multiplier effect. Currently, with the contribution of the fund, we are implementing projects to the tune of $200 million. What's more, in order to stabilize the Republic's budget, we have a total grant provided of $225 million. We are writing off Kyrgyz's debt slowly but surely. This is freeing up funds for crucial projects, including socioeconomic programs. The support of Kyrgyzia is also being provided through duty-free exports to Russia, and this includes petroleum products. Last year, in 2016, over 1 million tons of petroleum products were supplied to Russia. Russian companies are also very much assisting the development of Kyrgyzia. Gazprom is implementing a major gas supply and gasification program in Kyrgyzia, which will significantly raise the access to affordable energy in the country. The aggregate investment of the gas transport and gas distribution network of Kyrgyzia will make up 100 billion rubles. The level of gasification as a result of this plan is expected to grow from 22% today to 60% in the future. We are specifically focusing on preparing and training professional staff in Kyrgyzia in various sectors, including the industrial sector. Today, in Russian higher education schools, there are over 16,000 students from Kyrgyzia, out of which 5,000 are being provided with covered educational costs from the Russian budget. It is also significant that Kyrgyzia should get assistance from international organizations. In partnership with UNIDO, we are implementing in Kyrgyzia now 2 major projects. This is developing production of efficient construction materials in the Kyrgyz Republic for the creation of jobs and to support entrepreneurship. And the second project is strengthening the links between the productive sectors and the ISID region of the Kyrgyz Republic and the tourism sector. Kyrgyzia is also participating in a regional UNIDO project financed by Russia on improving industrial statistics. We believe that Kyrgyz's participation in the CPC program of UNIDO as being quite promising, which will harness the industrial potential of the country. It will attract new donors and investors to the country. Russia has allocated over $500,000 for the UNIDO Partnership Fund to prepare the Sustainable Industrial Development Program in Kyrgyzia 2017 to 2020 and to elaborate the PCP framework. We are continuing to work with other potential participants and donors as well. The support for Kyrgyzstan in working with the PCP program has been provided by the IIASA and the UN resident coordinator in Kyrgyzia. But the leadership of Kyrgyzia is itself very much committed to tapping into their country's inclusive and resilient industrial development. We are convinced that Kyrgyz's participation in the PCP program will advance socioeconomic development in this friendly country in the Central Asian region as a whole as well. Thank you very much.
Spasibo большое.
Thank you very much.
Ilovich, thank you very much indeed for giving us the scope there of what the Russian Federation is doing in terms of the PCP for the Kyrgyz Republic. Spasibo. That's Dania. So may I now ask my second panel to come and join me on the stage, please? And we've got hopefully a little bit of time before we end to go to the floor. Thank you very much indeed, panel. So, as I said, in this session, we've got a couple of countries that are going to be new PCP countries, and I think your names are all down. So you've got them there. Hello, Mr. Riskulov. And our first person I'd like to come to is Mr. Sham Prasid, who is the Senior Minister and Minister of Industry and Handicraft at the government of the Kingdom of Cambodia. So, Mr. Prasid, we heard there about, from the Minister from Thailand, about the importance of, regional hubs and so on and so forth. So, Cambodia's going to be a new PCP country, and how far do you see yourselves developing as a kind of regional hub for trade, for instance? Because I know you're very keen on diversifying your economy, and you've done very well in textiles and obviously tourism and so on, but you want to diversify and you want to see yourselves as a kind of regional hub. So I wonder if you could tell us about that within the context of the PCP.
Well, thank you very much, Zainab. First, Thailand next door is quite a model for Cambodia for economic development. What is important when we are deciding to join PCP is because of the graduation of Cambodia from a low-income country to lower middle-income country 2 years ago. over the past 26 years, UNIDO has extended assistance to Cambodia up to about $42 million. But all these $42 million were devoted to clean air production, green industry, green growth, developing, also supporting energy efficiency, market diversification, especially in marine products, and apart from this, related to low carbon productivity. So all in all, and also recently also in the field of accreditation and conformity assessment in metrology and standards. I believe that since we are moving further the ladder, it is very important that our industrial development policy that we have already adopted for the year 2015 to 2025 can be applicable and still be relevant. But we have seen that without a PCP, our IDP is not going to move very fast, because PCP, the way that we see it's implemented in Ethiopia, in Senegal or in Peru, is going to be supplementing or complementing to what we are doing with our own industrial development policy. So I believe that the PCP is a good opportunity for us to move ahead. And we have seized the occasion that DG Leong was in Cambodia last April to share experience about PCP in those 3 countries. We hope and push him back on the wall and say, why don't you accept also Cambodia as another pilot country? Because we are LDC, but we are at the forefront of the LDCs, and we want to move fast as well as Ethiopia and Senegal. So we push him, and we have written immediately a letter from our government to him so that we would like to be selected as a pilot country for PCP. Why we have chosen PCP? Because we believe that PCP is the major tool that would help us implement our development policy. Why? Because it is a blending of loan and grants. It is also a blending between private sector interest and public interest. It is also a blending of intervention between international financial institutions and also other donor countries. So all in all, this is something that is a kind of recipe for creating a better impact on our industrial development policy to make sure that it is inclusive and sustainable and make Cambodia be able to achieve the SDGs in the near future.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Prasid. Well, indeed, you must have done quite a bit of persuading when you spoke to Director General Lee Yong, because he's not only rolling it out, as I said, in Southeast Asia, but also in Central Asia, and also plans, by the way, for the Arab world. But Mr. Ulambek Riskulov, Chairman of the State Committee for Industry, Energy and Subsoil Use from the government of the Kyrgyz Republic, again, the blueprint that the PCP offers the Kyrgyz Republic is something that you find very, very attractive. But we know that part of its rationale is you've got to focus on areas and sectors, particular areas and sectors. And for you in the Kyrgyz Republic, you're going to be looking at ICT. That's going to be your focus. If you tell us about that.
Yes, indeed, you have everything you've said has been right, but I also wanted to use this opportunity to once again thank you for giving me this opportunity to take part in this forum. Once again, let me thank the General Director of UNIDO and to member states of UNIDO, and especially the Russian Federation for the support that they have been providing to us in order for the Kyrgyz Republic to be included in the program for country partnerships. For us, and for my colleague from Cambodia as well. For my country, this program is also quite significant because the program focuses on sectors of the economy which will create more jobs and new jobs and very strong intersectoral links that make up our GDP and for products that have a great deal of export potential. We now have a special project called Kazakhom, which is aiming at boosting transparency and openness in all spheres of our life. and in introducing new information and communication technologies, which will enable us, for example, to improve the links between the various sectors of the economy. This is, of course, crucial for the country to grow and develop and for that growth to be a lasting growth. My government has started to implement a range of different programs. We already have a program on the creation of tech poles for light industry. We're also considering right now the opportunity to create new jobs by developing the metallurgical sector. Well, last year, our government decided to create a committee which I chair. This committee brings together energy, industry, and mineral source development. All of these things are linked. So the mineral raw materials base is our foundation for economic growth. We are a mountainous country. We have very good natural resources. And we are a mountainous country which also has a great deal of potential in the energy sector. All of this gives us a perfect foundation in order to grow with the support and assistance of the international community in order to put together a hardy industrial growth program for the entire country. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, you talked there about the importance of ICT, and we've heard people refer to that. And so I come to you, Mr. Gao Hongbing, Vice President of Alibaba Group and President of Ali Research. And ever since Alibaba was established in 1999, it's really brought this world to people right at the bottom even, you know, starting at the grassroots level and working its way up. So it's very important to understand from your perspective how you see innovation and technology can be used for ISID, inclusive and sustainable industrial development, particularly when we hear about it being used as a way of leapfrogging, various stages of development.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. In my view, UNIDO has played a major role in helping the developing countries in their industrial development, especially by rolling out the PCP. This is a highly visionary program. Now we see there is a yawning gap between the rich and poor countries in the world. The richest 10 countries and the poorest countries see a difference of 110 times in their GDP. And if we look at the 10 richest and the 10 poorest provinces in China, the gap is 25 times. That is to say we see a greater gap internationally. Now we are going rapid change in the business model and science and technology. Therefore, this gap has become more and more significant. Therefore, PCP provides us with a roadmap to solve this problem. Of course, PCP does not only provide money, financing, but rather it promotes the understanding among people on industrial development, along with tools, instruments, as well as a framework and roadmap to achieve industrial development. And I think that is the significance of this program, where the significance of this program lies. The second point I'd like to share with you is that currently we are facing a revolution in terms of business and science and technology. That is where the Industrial 4.0 comes into play. There might be some misconceptions and misunderstanding of Industrial 4.0. We cannot separate industrial development and business development. We are jointly promoting PCP of UNIDO. However, we should not only focus on manufacturing, but we should draw the link between manufacturing and the global market enabled by the development of internet. If we cannot draw the dots of manufacturing, consumption, and other factors, the effectiveness of such programs will be weakened. We have to leverage the new ICTs to develop digital economy. We should drive the joint development of business and industrial development enabled by technology. And thirdly, and very importantly, the development of internet is a grassroots economy and an innovative model of development. It is driven by young people and by the mass, by the public. Therefore, programs or projects should give a way for young people to get into the market. We provide a favorable environment and framework, etc., so that the youth can join the battle. If we give them the opportunity of being an innovator or entrepreneur, that would provide the fuel for innovation in terms of industrial development and business model. Therefore, we have to create an opportunity for the young people to get into the market and move up the ladder. That is one of our most important experience. Now, Alibaba is a group, but rather it is a economy, a platform. Last year, we had a 3.7 trillion RMB yuan of sales volume. We have many SMEs and more consumers on the platform. This is a sharing and transparent collaborative platform. Nobody is giving anybody else orders, but rather this is an indigenous developed platform. In its process, its openness, its transparency, its responsibility is the major concept, as well as it is not limited by any borders. By 2036, we want to build a platform that will provide 100 million job opportunities to the society. Therefore, inclusiveness and healthy and sustainable development is the principle we are following. Therefore, we are ready to interact with UNIDO, especially through PCP, and we are jointly looking forward for opportunities for such interactions for better results. Thank you.
Be very happy. I'm sure they'll be very happy to hear that. So a new partnership between Alibaba and UNIDO. So thank you very much, stressing very much the importance of the internet and e-commerce and so on when we're talking about this kind of development. Paolo Del Santo, Education Business Development Manager in Europe, the Middle East and Africa for HP, which is the printer and PC side of Hewlett-Packard, who do the other stuff, your HP. But you, unlike Alibaba, are a very well-established partner of UNIDO, and so education is your big thing. So give us the vision of education within the context of PCP as a way of, operationalizing such partnerships.
So HP has been a long-standing partner with UNIDO since 2008. This was the year where we signed our agreement. The first project was in Kenya in 2010. And recently we had a very successful project in Tunisia. And what's interesting listening to all the participants today is the connection between prosperity, jobs, and education. And everybody mentioned the topic on skills and new developing of skills for the future. That's exactly where HP has been going in the last 10 years, especially in the collaboration with UNIDO. The PCB framework offers actually two benefits. One is the process and procedures. We can actually implement and follow something in a country which is there, which is certified and working already. And at the same time, it offers the possibility for partnership, which is key in our business. And education, Nelson Mandela said that education is the biggest weapon to fight poverty, but as well is the biggest weapon to job creation and prosperity overall. So education plays a role in all the business and in all the countries, from Thailand, from Cambodia, from Kyrgyzstan. So it's really the key focus on everything. And UNIDO has been a great partner for HP in the last 10 years, and we are also looking forward to develop more countries in the current PCB pilot, in the new ones as well. But that's really a key enabler for us.
So education, but not only just education per se, but also educating young people to develop the skills to do the jobs which the economies need,
the entrepreneurship,
in order to develop the entrepreneurship and all.
It's not just scores. We're not talking about just level of education, so score in OECD, but actually capacity and capability to do something to do business and to have the basics and also to expand what you can do. A good example is in Tunisia, where we invested in a project which is called Mashrui. It's my project in Arabic, and actually we supported investment locally, by local communities, and something like 1,500 jobs has been created, 37% has been managed by women, and it's all about entrepreneurship. How you build your new company, how you measure your budget, how you market in this. And this is long-lasting jobs, which also at the end create prosperity and also creation of a wider and bigger industry and culture as well. So that's what we have seen.
Thank you. Deborah Kurtzman, you're representative for the European Representative Office of the Asian Development Bank. And we know that the Asian Development Bank puts infrastructure, front, centre, back, left and right. It really is just so important for it in the region. And of course, we know SDG 9, which UNIDO obviously is the cheerleader for that, says that, building resilient infrastructure is very important, particularly when we're looking at building the kind of regional hubs and regional trades that we've heard talk about today. So I wonder, how does ADB see a partnership with UNIDO revolving around these kind of sectors?
ADB sees its partnership with UNIDO expanding based on the new opportunities under the Sustainable Development Goals, demand from our developing member country clients, the common clients for both organizations, and common goals. As you mentioned, SDG 9 on industry, infrastructure, and innovation. This is a key goal for ADB investments, given our role in infrastructure finance in the region. One of our new areas that we've been focusing on is to have greater use of innovative technologies, because we think these are very important, as it's been discussed by most of the speakers today, with IT, that this is a way to harness greater development impact. We've recently amended our procurement rules, and we're looking at ways for our countries as well as contractors that want to work on ADB projects to better mainstream these technologies. The focus of ADB's partnership with UNIDO to date has been more on regional cooperation and integration. And so in addition to the PCP, which is a very important tool, and it's very exciting to hear that 2 of the countries in the Asia region will be using the PCP going forward. I just wanted to mention that we've been working with UNIDO on our strategy in Central Asia. It's called Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation. And this strategy, a new strategy, CAREC 2030, was recently adopted. And this mainstreams the SDGs, and it will deepen ADB's work with the countries and other partners on transport, energy, trade, and economic corridor operations. But it's going to expand to new areas such as tourism and agriculture, et cetera. And we're also creating new avenues for our partners to be more involved and lead new initiatives. So we see greater opportunities with UNIDO going forward. And we're also working with UNIDO. In a few countries, we're discussing some opportunities. So we think this is an excellent initiative, and we look forward to a stronger partnership.
So you actually see that the PCP model can support the ADB's development strategies in these 2 Asian countries, Central Asia, Kyrgyz Republic, and also in Cambodia?
As was mentioned earlier, it's a very good platform for multi-stakeholder engagement. We've been working in both countries. We have a lot of studies. We're happy to share all the work that we've done. But as was mentioned earlier, the whole value chain getting in very deep, I think this will be very beneficial to inform the dialogue. In Cambodia, we'll be starting a new country strategy and program next year. We're going to be starting to work on it, and we welcome working closely with UNIDO on this.
Let me ask the private sector representatives here. I mean, as UNIDO continues to roll out, the PCP model, I mean, in your perspective, what are the kind of essential incentives that the business sector needs in order to get involved? Mr. Del Santo, or they'll come to you afterwards, yeah?
I think the the bigger improvement that we actually see is the predictability and the future rollout of future PCBs, and in general, a look ahead in the years. It's something like a little bit more planning and joint work on sharing information, and especially trying to run, we can call it pilot or smaller initiatives, that which also help drive in the direction for the future. Instead of a huge, big project, which is multi-year, very complex, we can also see some opportunities for smaller, more targeted project pilot, which helps go in that direction. And at the same time, for private business, it's probably an area of, you can call it recognition, you can call it badge of excellence. Participating in this program gives new skills, knowledge also to the private sector. And probably there is also a wish to have recognition. It's a wrong term because then it looks like a payoff back, but it's really a badge that says that the company was working in that direction and supported this goal, and then also participating to the PCB and to the UNIDO goals.
Mr. Gall.
I believe the goals put forward by UNIDO is also a responsibility shouldered by Alibaba. This is not simply a business issue. As I mentioned, this is a very important issue relating to the gaps between rich countries and poor countries. First of all, I believe that businesses today should not only consider themselves, they should also shoulder social responsibilities. They should consider social development. This aspiration alone already creates dynamics. Secondly, we should have new ideas, not thinking the traditional way. Therefore, in developing national economy, the government should consider what driving forces can promote the sustainable development of the businesses. As I have said, we should lower the thresholds for markets. We should let the market elements to dominate the market, not to be dominated by the government. We should let more young people to enter the market. Therefore, we have a new, open and inclusive environment. Naturally, the government should encourage spontaneous entry into this market. We should also consider the new partnership between the private and public sectors. And therefore, in some very successful projects, such as those practices of Alibaba, like the Taobao villages and the business parks, actually, they are not created by Alibaba. They have been created by the grassroots business people themselves. So some of the developments are not dictated by us, but they will come up automatically in the market. The government should let them grow.
Not much time to come to the floor, but I understand the representative from Poland wants to make an intervention. Thank you. If you'd be so kind, please, sir.
Thank you very much for allowing us to say at least a few words at the end of the session. We very much support, this concept. I wanted to confirm that we are very much going to support this project by ourselves. We'll be happy to see even more countries. Basing on our experience, I would like to say that what our colleagues from the panel session presented to us, what is very important, is to put attention not only to some young people for education purposes, but also for the employees of the current enterprises and future enterprises in the area of education and training. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So, panel, really just a final closing minute. Just in your views, just sum up for us, why the PCP differs from the traditional kind of country programs that we've seen in the past? You know, what are the main features of the PCP model that you think really make it desirable? Who wants to start? Deborah? Thank you.
I think that the PCP model provides an excellent platform, the multi-stakeholder, and also the whole value chain. So I think that stands out, and it's very focused on certain industries and on results. So I think that's very important.
Mr. Prasid, I mean, you said, oh, please come and do the PCP here. But I mean, as we've heard, it's not a kind of universal one-size-fits-all. The PCPs are very much an evolving framework that's been adapted for each country. So is that one particular aspect of it that really appeals to you?
Well, the experience, successful experience in Ethiopia, Peru or Senegal could be learned. But I believe that we have to be innovative in Cambodia. The type of PCP that we are going to develop would be something that have to be relevant to for the next at least 20 years to go. It should be based on IT or DT. It has to be based on platform that like Alibaba, Ali Research are doing, or the education of skill, have to develop the skills that is needed in the next 20 years. So when we are going to develop a PCP, the PCP have to address, to be able to define what type of product we have to produce for the next 20 years, and that are still relevant in the next 20 years. And based on this, we will develop the skill through education, like HP is dispensing, and we are going to use platform to support the business like Ali Research, Alibaba is doing, and other like SAP as well, or other companies that could be also supporting extending business development services to the private sector, but at the same time being able to help us produce what is different from what we call Industry 3.0. The PCP that we have in Cambodia, or we will have to starting and sign tomorrow a joint declaration with DG Lyon, should be a PCP with Industry 4.0 as the basis, and the IT and DT as the software platform to support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Riskilo.
Well, just briefly, the PCP, well, it's very unique in that this program helps every single country to find their own path in achieving industrial development and improving the quality of life of their countrymen. In terms of a comprehensive approach, you need to provide training. You need to make sure that staff have better qualifications. You need to improve and develop the financial sector. In other words, it's unique because you need to take up the uniqueness of each country. All countries, of course, have their own raw materials or commodities or their own specific products, or there may be similar products that they produce. But this program helps each individual country to have their own niche because it takes into consideration the country's its own unique profile. Each country is unique, and it needs to make its own unique contribution to world economy. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gao, so your final brief comment, please. We know that the PCP facilitates the leveraging of public and private finance, but yeah, please do.
Well, I'm going to tell my own experience. As mentioned by DG, the PCP projects was taken up. The traditional projects were carried out by countries themselves, but now there is a partnership to carry out joint project. I think joint financing can ensure from different perspectives we can have cooperation along different links of the value chain. Secondly, we can sum up the experience and learn from the lessons. This is also a good basis for future development. thirdly, I think we should add another development, that is, we should attract young people to take part in it. I think those at their 30s should be the most important talents in the process.
And a word, Mr. Dal Santo.
So more or less repeating what we have here until now. So the PCP, it's a good tool for private and public collaboration, for sure. It's looking in the future. We heard about manufacturing 4.0 factory. So this is really future point 4.0, also in attracting new people, training new people, using tools for a job and products that maybe they don't even exist today. We are really looking into 20, 30 years from now, where the kids which are at school today will have the right professional skills, personal capability to develop and build the future. And PCB really helps looking ahead of this.
Ringing endorsement from all of you. Thank you very much, Mr. Dal Santo. Thank you very much indeed to my panel. Please my invite to the lector, Mr. Philip Scholtes, Managing Director of UNIDO's Programme Development and Technical Cooperation, to just give us some brief closing remarks to end this session. Thank you very much indeed, Philip.
Thank you, Zainab, and thank you, distinguished panelists, for your contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. It's my privilege on behalf of UNIDO to bring this exciting debate to a close, and I would like to do so briefly with a few pointers on what it means for us, how it started, and most importantly, how we see the future of this. First of all, I would like to put this in a historical, let's say, chronological perspective, and say that we are certainly not the only ones to talk about partnership, but perhaps we had a seminal role in this. We started in 2013 when you, the member states, agreed or passed the Lima Declaration on inclusive and sustainable industrial development, which put central emphasis on partnerships as a means of leveraging additional resources beyond those strictly at the disposal of UNIDO. 2 years later, at the Addis Ababa Action Agenda for Action, again, the third Financing for Development Conference also had put a central role on partnerships between banks, development assistance, business, industry, and so on, to work together towards Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 came a couple of months later, in September 2015. Again, one of the SDG 17, was specifically about partnerships. And even more recently than the G20 paper on industrialization in Africa in 2016, where we have a fairly specific indication of the role of partnerships for industrialization across the continent. Now, we had started at UNIDO in the Secretariat, particularly with the arrival of DG Lyon, and in 2013, we had started thinking and building tools for this and to bring up our capacities to be able to deliver technical assistance services, perhaps in a more meaningful way, in a way that would provide greater impact on the resources at our disposal. And we had a number of initiatives on this in the course of 2014. Finally, in the beginning of 2015, we felt that the best way we can convey a message is to simply test it and see how it works in practice, what are the strengths, weaknesses, the benefits, what we should look at in particular. And this is how we engaged in this first series of 3 PCP countries, in Ethiopia, in Senegal, and a little later in Peru. And for us, it was meant to be not only a new form of technical assistance, but also a way to learn from the daily interaction with government, with various government officials and various institutions, and see whether it fulfills its promises of delivering, at the end of the day, more results, more impact for our member states. And in parallel, we had also started some negotiations at corporate level with development finance institutions, because to a large extent the essence of the PCP, the programs for country partnership, rests on the idea that there is only so much that an organization like UNIDO, working exclusively on grant-funded technical assistance services, can achieve. Yes, we build capacities, we train people, we strengthen institutions, but at the end of the day, industrialization requires much more than that. It requires investment in infrastructures, in roads, in ports, in utilities. It requires private investment in factories and production capacities, all things that are clearly beyond the remit of UNIDO, but which are obviously essential for any industrialization to take place. So we thought that beyond the theoretical arguments, that the best way we could demonstrate the validity of the concept was by applying it in different contexts, different countries that have totally different environment, different systems, and but which have in common that they had a very clearly articulated national development strategy where industrialization had a special role. As I said, in parallel, we were conducting discussions with development banks, with the World Bank, with the African Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, towards harmonizing our systems and procedures and being seen as meeting the requirements of partnerships from a fiduciary point of view. So we worked for the last 2-3 years on this, and we thought that the time had come now to sit down and have an assessment of what we have been doing so far, how effective it was, how much it helped us generate more impact on our resources. And we did so in 2 ways. One was by commissioning a midterm evaluation, a midterm review of the partnership strategy, and there we called on professionals, evaluators, who spent several weeks and visited most of the countries, interacted with most of the government officials to have a comprehensive, complete, possibly complete picture of the benefit of partnerships. And at the same time, we also organized a study tour that I had the privilege to accompany about a month ago, when 7 permanent representatives of UNIDO traveled with me to Ethiopia, and we spent 3 days visiting different projects and interviewing a whole lot of counterparts and stakeholders. And all this, of course, is building knowledge at our level. This is, we are drawing from it, we are learning the key points. A few very key features of the programs for country partnerships as they emerge from both the midterm evaluation and the study tour is, number one, the government, the national ownership, and the very, very close alignment of the PCP with the national development strategies. That is fundamental for us, because we are not there to impose ideas or views, but as some of the panelists mentioned, we simply listen to very specific contingencies of different countries, and we try and see how we can help from the viewpoint of partnership. So national ownership is fundamental. Another very critical feature that is often overlooked in this kind of initiative is the coordination aspect of a program for country partnership. And as much as we try to be quantitative in our metrics and try to come up with key performance indicators that are tangible and measurable and so on, at the end of the day, you see that one of the key benefits of the partnership as it emerges from this growing body of empirical evidence is the impact that it has on coordination, bringing together or supporting a dialogue across ministries, and supporting a dialogue between different ministerial bodies on the one hand and the international donor community on the other hand. That is, in our opinion, a very fundamental benefit of the partnerships. So the road ahead is that we plan to expand the approach based on the strength and the success that we have measured in the last 3-4 years. but we will do so in a way that is, of course, cautious, mindful of the capacities that we have here at headquarters. It's clear that we cannot expand dramatically with the same strength of human resources, and we have to make sure that whatever we engage into, we are able to deliver to the satisfaction of our partners. So that will be a cautious progression. We will also produce some standard operating procedures, that based on the lessons learned in the first 3 countries and the ones that we are engaging into now in Cambodia and Kyrgyzstan. We want to see how we can move beyond these and expand the empirical base of our activities, develop some fairly solid standard operating procedures so that we can mainstream the program for country partnership as a kind of typical tool for programming technical assistance of UNIDO in the future. And I would conclude with one statement here, is that all these initiatives, to allay the fears expressed by some of our member states, all these initiatives are, of course, fully compliant, fully consistent with the medium-term program framework and the kind of programmatic guidelines that were given by our member states to the Secretariat. As you will see, we haven't changed the workforce of UNIDO, we haven't changed the skill sets of this organization, we haven't even changed the way we deliver technical assistance services. What we are certainly changing with the PCP is the way we program technical assistance, the way we interact with different stakeholders, with the development finance institutions, with the private sector, around a common goal of inclusive and sustainable industrial development. So we take on board the recommendations, the lessons learned by the professional evaluators in the midterm review. We have taken on board also the comments and the views expressed by the 7 distinguished permanent representatives who visited Ethiopia last month. We will take stock of all this. We will revise, refine, fine-tune our technical assistance approaches, and then we will proceed in 2018 in a cautious way with a limited number of countries, learning again from the interaction in different contexts, different profiles, and making such that soon enough we will be able to spread it across the organization and at the end of the day provide more meaningful, more impactful services to you, to our member states, given the resource constraints that we are facing here at headquarters. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panel. And that concludes my microphone's off. Thank you very much indeed, Philip Scholtes, and thank you to my panel, and thank you to you for your attention, and I hope that you have a very fruitful continuing conference. It's been my pleasure being with you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Hi, just a quick housekeeping note. Tomorrow morning.